Okay, so the first thing we're gonna start with is his stance. So he's just kind of gonna mimic me. His heels are kind of underneath his shoulders and his toes out about 30 degrees, which I'll explain why in a second. That looks pretty good. Put your hands together like if you were gonna pray. You're gonna look down here at the edge of this mat, squat down, and then take your elbows and physically push your knees out and get into the bottom position. Push your knees out a little bit more with your elbows. There you go. So this is the bottom position of the squat. This right here is what's called his hip crease. It's just below the top of his patella or the top of his knee here. Go a little bit deeper, right there. He's probably more horizontal than maybe some of you guys have pictured, especially if you're new to this. Like Nathan said earlier, the high bar versus the low bar. He's leaned over. He's leaned over because we want to load all of this muscle mass, all of this posterior chain. His eyes are down at the ground. That helps with balance, and that helps his ability to push his hips up out of the bottom. But this is the bottom position. He's in balance over midfoot. His knees are tracking out over the toes, and he's at parallel or just beneath it. Now, I want you to lift this up and stand. Go ahead. Just like that. So great exaggeration, you can rest for a second, of lifting his hips first. So what's the whole point of this? I want to use as much of me as possible to lift the most weights. So if I am down here at the bottom and I try to just lift my chest, what am I essentially doing? I'm leaving out where I have the most muscle mass, the junk in the trunk, right? Like the hamstrings, the glutes, the adductors, the quad. I'm leaving all that out and I'm just trying to lift my chest. Some of you will try to do this today because you will get down to the bottom of the squat. You'll say, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this. I want to be upright again. And you'll just do what's natural. You'll crank your head up and you'll try and lift your chest. So if I tell you today, drive your hips. Michael, stay leaned over. Frankie, push your ass up. Hey, use your hips. What I'm referring to is this exaggeration of the hips. And I say exaggeration early because this 45-pound bar compared to his whatever 185 pounds, he's gonna kind of look like this in a second. But as soon as this load gets closer to his body weight, you're gonna see that back angle stay consistent, okay? So I'm gonna go over the bar position in a second, but what I want you to understand is the low bar position and that horizontal back angle and that leaned over and hips back, it's allowing us to lift more weights because we have to stay in balance. We can't fall over when we squat. Well, we can, but we don't want to. And so if I put the bar low on his back versus high, if this is his back, this is his head, this is his hips, he's gonna be more leaned over. The more leaned over he is, the more of his hips are loaded and the less of his knee is loaded. So that's why we do that versus the high bar squat. Is a high bar squat bad? No. Well, some of you maybe have to do it today due to, shoulder issues, maybe, but just realize that the reason we're doing the low bar is because it loads more muscle. So get back in your stance again. Hands together like you're gonna pray, squat down, shove your knees out, eyes down at the ground, look down a little bit more, kind of flatten the back of your neck out. There you go. I'm gonna put pressure here, drive up against my hand and stand. Go ahead. Yep, good. Go back down, do it again. Knees are out, nice and wide. A little deeper, right there. Drive up against my hand and stand. Very good. Now we're gonna enter the bar. If you notice, when I set him up, I went ahead and put the bar right where I wanted it. That way that movement he just learned of driving his hips, fresh in his mind, we get right to the bar. So he's gonna stand up, the bar's gonna be about sternum height, right? So for him, right at the top of the pocket. Because on his back, it's not going to sit here in the high bar position. It's going to sit down. Where, you might say? Well, if you all take your right hand and reach over your left shoulder, and Connor can kind of help you, out here on the lateral edge of your shoulder is a little bony ridge. He has scapula here on each side. They float in kind of muscle and fascia. They're not attached. And there's a little bony ridge at the top of it that we call the spine of the scapula. Yep, right there, yep. And the bar sits out here, yep. The bar sits just beneath that. His grip, we want his grip as tight as it can be in order for him to get in that position, but he's warming up right now. So we're gonna start kind of wide. Let's go with your index finger on that outside brick in the knurl. Yep, let's center the bar, and then you're actually gonna put your thumb up on top of the bar so that the wrist is neutral for now. You're gonna duck underneath and put the bar down here. So duck under, a little bit deeper, right there. So just pause there for a second. So this is the low bar position. Pull these muscles tight, yep. So the tighter he can get his hands in, don't do it now, but the tighter that he can, the more that muscular on the back is gonna stick up and make the bar kind of rest on this shelf, we call it, and it's gonna feel snug. You shouldn't feel like it's rolling down your back, you shouldn't feel like it's rolling up your back. If you get it in the correct position with the correct hand width and grip, it should feel really secure. Okay, walk forward a little bit more, so right there. This is rep 0. So don't come out of the rack like this, way behind it, just get under like Christian just did and stand up, and now take a step back. Look at your feet and get the same stance you had before, a little more toe angle, good. Your eyes are gonna be down at the baseboard. You're gonna do the same thing you did without the bar. Two things are different. You're not gonna stop at the bottom. You're gonna go down and you're gonna come right back up, and you have to actively shove your knees out. Before you used your elbows, now you have to just do it. So look at the baseboard, take a breath of air in and hold it, sit back, lean over and squat. Knees out, and come up. Pretty good. Make sure to lead with this out of the bottom. And come up, nice. Hold your breath the whole rep. Drive your hips up. That's fine, pause, get set over midfoot, and then begin the rep. Good, and one more. Knees out, hips up. Pretty good. Walk it forward, hit the rack, and come down. Okay, good. So when you set up your J-hooks, you want to set up your J-hooks so that when you finish a heavy rep and you're out of breath and your face is pink and you just broke like 4 blood vessels in your eyeballs, you just want to walk straight forward and hit the rack. I promise you these things did not jump up out of the concrete and run away during your set, so don't look for it. Don't tiptoe it in. Don't put it so low that you got to go down. You got 4 inches to play with here. We'll set your height so you can walk forward, hit that UHMW plastic, and just squat it down, okay?